Welcome back again. We've got a few new things to fix. After our last escapade, we just thought we got out of it with a hydraulic line, but I've developed a fuel leak on the tractor, so to figure out what we've got going on there, if I can work around all this junk in this building to get to where I gotta go. We'll get around here and scope it out, see what had happened. Look, I'll back up. We'll preface this. Yep, stacked in tight. Stuff's broke, needs working on all the time. I wanted to get a video of that. I'm taking the cylinder off. It was seal blew out of it, started pouring oil everywhere, so that had to be taken off, be fixed. Taking a long way around here. Let's see, some light. But I got back and noticed I could smell some diesel. And then I saw a little trail coming in where I backed in, but my glass filter has separated. And I went through a bunch of these last time we were working ground. Thought we might have had a run of bad filters, but I think our bypass line stopped up. So I'm gonna scope that out, see if we can't figure out what's going on. Get this shield here off. Radio cables. Yeah, it's sucker's a little bent. Alrighty. It's stopping up right there. All right, I'm gonna go find my little flashlight so I can get a little better look at all this. All right, now that we got this shield right here off, I'm coming in and looking at the filter. Of course, I can see fuel down here on this bottom bolt. There's a little drip of it right there. This side over here is a little damp, but it's not running off of it. You can also look all the way around this seam on this back filter here. It's dry. You can see rubber all the way around there in the gasket. And you get over here to the front one and it's wet all the way around. And it's a lot of, I don't think you can pick it up on the camera, but it's a lot of fuel just sitting in there. So, but you got your primer bulb here, and your supply line comes through. When you pump it up, goes through there, goes down this steel line to the bottom of these filters, and of course you pump them, they fill up, and that's your supply to the pump. This braided line right here. Then of course you got oil lines coming down here, and then you've got all of your individual lines going to your injectors. This line right here on the top of the pump goes over to the intercooler. But each one of these injectors, they've got your main supply coming off of them, going into the top of them on each one. Then you got a little rubber boot on these with some clamps. Some of them have hose clamps on them, so evidently that's just what was had to keep them from leaking at the time. But I always keep a bunch of these in the cab just to have, because I think we've replaced just about all of them since we've had it, but they're bad about being brittle and cracking. You see that one in there is in a pretty darn good bind. Well, get around to it. So, I mean, it's gonna fail, and it's gonna fail right there in that crease whenever it does give away. But anyway, that's your return coming out of the injectors. And then they all tee in and go down here and go back over to your tank. And that little crooked little wiry line right up there. And here on your pump, this should be your bypass line coming out and going back up to the return on the pump. So whatever doesn't make it through these injectors to the lines, when it builds pressure, it'll hit this line here and come out of there and go back to the pump, or to go back to the tank. And this is a little screen down here. Some of the, I don't know if this was glass whenever it was new or not, but this is just a little bowl, but it's got a little screen in there. And a lot of times your filters will be clean, but this little guy right here, it'll choke up first. There it went. I got this line coming off the pump. I'm gonna take the front clamp loose here and then pull the cap off of the fuel tank and blow air through it to the fuel tank and make sure that's clear. I'm gonna have to loosen that big clamp right there up. Son's over there doing make-believe and such. Back when times were simpler. Envy that guy. Trying to do this without ripping this T in half. Have a light on it and everything else. I'm trying to video this mess. Creates a pain. There we go. Now, put this in here and try to blow some air through this guy. Right there, diesel all over everything. I don't think there was anything in that. Still a jag of fuel, but blowing through there pretty free now. Man's coming out here with the manual. Let's see what he's got to say. I'll teach the YouTube world something. What's that book worth? Worth more than it costs. That's it. It's the tech manual.
Let's get the good cover on and get this darn hole in it.
Well, after much talk and deliberation, I think we decided that we're just going to go with blowing air through the line, since we don't have a gauge to hook up to it to see what kind of pressure we're building on the pump itself. But the only thing that makes sense is that we've just got too much pressure on the, or too much return, and overloading the return line. So I had a lot of trouble with moisture in these tanks, and all of the caps on all the diesel tanks will have rust on them where they won't vent sometimes. So it's possible that before that one was replaced when it should have been, you know, it's possible we could have had an issue with it not venting correctly. But I'd almost think, since we've got that much moisture in the cap, or that much rust in the cap itself, that this return line could have had some rust on the end of it, or just enough inside of it that it was restricting it just enough where we were building too much pressure up, and then that was the first filter. But that being said, we've had to replace so many of these T's on here. So, I mean, that's going to be a weak spot, and then obviously you're going to have a weak spot where the glass is made to the metal on the sealer there, I guess. But it's definitely an issue. Now, without checking pressure, I mean, I can't determine that. I can't determine if that's, and without taking it off for sure. I mean, I guess if I took it off, I could see if it was clogged any. But anyway, blew air through it, and I could tell something went through there, but it could have just been fuel. So, but I mean, I was getting plenty of air through there. So we'll try that and see if that doesn't work. But if it doesn't, it's possible. You know, if that doesn't work, we start having issues again, or keep having issues, then I'll have to take that line off, this return line here, completely off, and look at it and see if it's clear. And then if it is, then we might end up having to look at the supply pump to make sure it's only supplying, I think it was 20 to 25 pounds with it wide open. So that's where we're gonna leave this project today. It's just where we check this line for anything clogging it up going back into the tank. Just more of a project than I want to get into today, if it's any more than that. So that's more than we did before. All right. Line's clean. I don't see any little bits of rust or anything in the return lines, but that's something else. All the rust and stuff that's in this tank on this tractor, if you had a common rail system, it would never run. It would take just one little piece of rust to get in there and start jacking with the pump and keep it from running. But these old rigs right here, you could just about run mud through them and they'd run. Or just clean it out and go again. Pump would be trashed, but it would still run. So it's very important to keep clean fuel for sure. Then you got some handy clamp pliers. If you ever wondered, you had a set of pliers that you inherited from somebody and they had all these little ends in there, these little holes that looked odd. Clamp pliers. Fit right in there like so. Open her up and then put it back down. Get it as close to where it was sitting as before, and that way it'll fit back in the memory of that rubber and be less likely to leak. I'm going to check our little screen on our supply pump here. First thing I got to do is cut the fuel off at the tank. So get around here and find the valve at the bottom of the tank, which will be right there. Turn this valve off. All right, that one's screwed in. All right, now that we got our valve cut off on our supply line, loosen the bowl. These are all over everything. I don't care about the floor, but I just don't want it all over my clothes. It can be all stinky. Then you got all kinds of crap like this. I'm gonna say, oh, that's nasty, it's slime. Yeah, that's not helping our situation any either. So, I guess I'm gonna clean that up. And start fresh there. Find me some brake cleaner and I'll get it cleaned up. I'm mud, anything that you don't want in your injector pump. So I'll go right back up in there like that, and then we'll push it up to the.
It's on.
Screw that tight. Now, that's clean.
And your hands are dirty.
Yeah, my hands are dirty.
Clean dirty. Oh, so
Alright.
good.
Now we gotta change our glass filters here.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Alright, now we'll pop her. That needs to be tied up out of the way. That's the power for the cold start assist, little snort button. That off. So these filters ain't got, I bet they don't have 25 hours on them, so I'm gonna put the other good one back on. I might would have gone on and replaced it if it were me, but boss man said put them on, so that's what I'm gonna do. Yep. There we go. Alright, both those are back on. Now we can pump them up after we cut the fuel back on at the tank. That's next. Slow down. Drop a little fuel bowl. It's about a shot of diesel fuel. Ain't no good. But it was better when it had sulfur in it. Diesel fuel, and I got the filter replaced, cleaned the screen on it, so hopefully we've got it. I don't know if it was some crap in that return line or not, building too much pressure and busting those filters open, but won't know till we really run it. spring when it warms up some, gets dry. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. So if you're gonna follow along, like and subscribe. See ya.